and welcome back to my channel, where I'm going to cover the Ranger's Gloom Stalker class specialization from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, providing a brief description of the subclass as well as explain and set up the various features gained. A Gloom Stalker is a ranger who thrives in areas of darkness and will generally be found in places like the Underdark, forests that are so dense with flora that they can create perpetual shadows at ground level, or in areas where shadow simply dominates over lit areas. Much like other ranger classes, these rangers are good trackers and hunters, and are sworn to protect people from the wilds of their lands. But in this case, those lands invite shadow and evil to permeate the world, and this is where the Gloomstalkers come into play. The class is built to deal with those shadows and remove its advantage of the dark, evening out the playing field, and even in some cases giving the ranger the advantage over those that they hunt. And as usual, rangers choose their class specialization at level 3. So you will have time to consider what subclass you wish to take before you get to level 3. But you'll want to pay attention to those class specializations because some can have different stat requirements like we found with other classes. However, before we start looking at each of this particular class specialization's features, I'm going to go ahead and level our character up to level 3 and then select the Gloom Stalker. The first feature your character is going to gain is called Gloom Stalker Magic Feature, and it gives your character additional spells that they will learn as they progress in this particular class specialization. Much like other classes that are given spells through features, these spells will always be available to your character, and they will be learned at levels 3, 5, 9, 13, and finally at level 17. And these spells will not go against your prepared spells, meaning that when you take these spells, you can immediately prepare them, they will become available to your character, but they don't go against your total number of prepared spells that your character can have. The only real restriction is that you must have an active spell slot available for you to be able to cast the spell that you're looking to cast, and it has to be of the appropriate level. The first spell your character will gain is called Disguise Self, and while I won't go into the spell itself, I will show you how to make it accessible to your character, as well as set up a spell group so that you can keep these spells separate from the rest of your spells your character is going to learn. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in Disguise Self here. Now it's going to drop into your level 1 spells, but what I'm going to do instead is change the spell group from the spells listing to the Gloom Stalker listing. And I'm actually going to add spells to the end of that. Oop, not spells. There we go. I'm also going to convert this into a spell group. And the last thing I want to do before closing this window is set up our ability scores to all be wisdom based, because that's what a ranger uses when they're casting spells, is wisdom. And you can confirm that by going into spellcasting, scrolling down, and under spellcasting ability, you will see that wisdom is your primary stat. With that set up, we can now drag in any additional spells into this particular spell group. For example, when we take this 5th spell here, or at 5th level, we take this spell, Rope Trick. When we drop that into place, it'll create a spell group that is automatically linked to this spell group here, already setting it up. Before moving on, however, we want to make sure that we actually set this to be prepared. That way, it'll always become available, and the only time it will go away is if you burnt through all of your spell slots. Another feature your character is going to gain at level 3 is called Dread Ambusher, and it will help your character with initiating a combat encounter. At the outset of combat, your character will be able to add your wisdom modifier to your initiative rolls, and you will also gain the following benefits on your very first turn of a given combat encounter. The first is that if you make an attack action during this turn, your character will be able to make an extra attack, even at this level. And if that attack hits, it will do an additional 1d8 points of damage on top of what the weapon normally does. And finally, during that first turn, your movement speed will increase by up to 10 feet. Now, when it comes to setting up your initiative roll, that is actually going to be relatively easy to do. All we have to do is drag and drop this into our action sheet here. We can see that we already have the 1d8 damage roll, but we don't necessarily need to deal with that just yet. We want to call this group called Gloom Stalker. And what I want to do is add a new action, and it's going to be an effect. And pop that open. What I'm going to call this is Dread Ambusher. Semicolon. And we're going to be giving ourselves an additional modifier to be added to our initiative roll. So we want to call this init, colon, and then in brackets, whiz, for wisdom. And it's going to be on yourself. There does not appear to be a limitation here, so I don't think we need to worry about round or on the next roll, although, yes, we do need to get rid of that after you create the initiative roll, otherwise it isn't going to work from any other subsequent initiative rolls. Now I've gone ahead and added our character to the combat tracker. We're right here, but we don't currently have an initiative roll. So what I'm going to do is, because this is the first round within a combat scenario, I'm going to click this particular effect. I'm then going to go to here and roll my initiative. Now, the bonus you are gaining through this initiative roll is inclusive of all other bonuses that you get. It doesn't replace your current initiative roll, or initiative roll bonuses, I should say. It is a bonus added on top of your initiative roll, which is already adding in additional bonuses. But we can see right here, when we made this roll, we added a +3 to the overall total. And that means that we had a +4 plus 3 equals our total of 9, which is, to be honest, was a really crappy roll. So that takes care of our initiative roll. The second benefit that you're gaining, the ability to add an extra attack during that first round, is something that you're just going to have to remind the DM that you have the capability of doing. But that extra attack exists only in the first round. You will not be able to use that extra attack in any subsequent round. Now, later on, when your character gains the extra attack capability, this particular extra attack is in addition to that extra attack. So instead of you just attacking twice for your first combat encounter round, you'll be able to attack a total of 3 times. So let's say combat has just initiated. Once again, we don't have our initiative roll. So we're going to go ahead, click this to start our initiative roll, execute the initiative roll. Hopefully we get something better than a 2 this time. Well, that'll work. And in this particular case, I'm going to assume that everyone else rolled lower. I'm not going to actually go and roll an initiative for everybody except for the adult dragon here, which I've already done. This means that our ranger gets to go first. So I'm going to apply the action token to our ranger. Now, because this is the first round, I'm going to go ahead and target this particular adult white dragon. I think I've got that targeted. There we go. I'm then going to go ahead and make my first attack with whatever weapon. In this particular case, I'm going to use this short sword. Okay, that is a miss. I am now going to go ahead and make use of the extra attack capability that I am gaining because this is the first combat round of this scenario. That one hits. Now, because that has hit, I can add this effect and then roll my damage. Now, the other thing that I can do is this particular ranger normally has 35 feet of movement, but because this is also the first round, this ranger actually has a total movement speed of 45. I recommend not modifying this because this is only going to apply during the first round of any combat encounter. Now, let's say that the combat encounter has progressed through to the next round, and apparently I have used this dragon before because it's rerolling for its breath weapon. We're now back with the ranger. This ranger is only level 3. I've hit, I get to roll my damage, but then I'm done unless I have any bonus actions that I can do. All of those other benefits are now gone. So that's exactly how this particular feature works. The final feature your character will gain at level 3 is called Umbral Sight, and it gives dark vision to your character, or extends its range if your character already has it. If your character currently can't see in the dark, then they will gain dark vision out to 60 feet. But if your character already has dark vision, it will extend it by another 30 feet. Additionally, if your character is in darkness, you will become invisible to any creature that sees dark vision, as long as you remain in the darkness. This is not referring to the darkness spell. This literally means anywhere there is normally 0 visibility by anyone who has no dark vision, true sight, or blind sight capabilities. But in this particular case, the invisibility factor only applies to anyone who actually utilizes dark vision to see. This means you would essentially vanish to anyone with dark vision as long as you entered a completely unlit cave or any other area where total darkness is prevalent. If, however, your character passes through an area of dim light, then they will become visible to anyone who sees with dark vision. Now, this particular character already sees in the dark. They already have dark vision. So there are 2 ways that you can go about making this change. The first is that you could literally go here and just simply update that to 90. Doesn't much matter. It's permanent. It's a passive effect. You don't have to activate this feature in order to gain access to the extra distance, if you will, from dark vision. So you could theoretically make the change here. But Recently, Fantasy Grounds added some additional capabilities that allow you to modify the character's dark vision a little bit more passively, if you will. And that is by adding an effect to Umbral Sight. So I'm going to go ahead and add this effect. I'm going to call it Umbral Sight. Semicolon, and then the effect is literally just vision, colon. Now, if your character currently doesn't have dark vision capabilities, it'll be 60 feet, dark vision. And it's going to be on yourself, and it doesn't expire. But if your character, like this one, happens to already have dark vision, you can actually set this to 90 feet. And this vision effect will override the main effect here once it's applied to your character. And all you do is once you're in the combat tracker, and your character has to be in the combat tracker for this effect to take place, you just simply click that, and away you go. Now, anytime you move about on the map, you will have a vision capability equivalent to dark vision out to 90 feet is your total distance. At Ranger level 5, our character is now going to gain their next Gloom Stalker spell called Rope Trick. And all we have to do is find where we went through and added in our Gloom Stalker spells group, and simply drag and drop that spell into place. And what you will see is that it will automatically create an equal group with the higher level requirement here, or indicator, and link that spell into that. These two groups are now linked, so if you make any modifications to any one of these settings, or even the prepared list here, it will automatically go through and modify any of the groups that are linked to it. The last thing that we have to do is just make sure that it's prepared. And at Ranger level 7, your character will now gain access to the Iron Mind feature, giving your character proficiency with wisdom-based saving throws. However, if your character already has proficiency with that stat, you will be able to choose from intelligence or charisma instead. And in this particular case, our character does not have proficiency with that because the star that's here is grayed out. It's not this yellow color. So we just simply want to click that to make it proficient. At Ranger level 9, your character is now going to gain the Fear spell. So I'm going to quickly switch over to our Actions tab here, put this back to standard, drag and drop this into our current spell group. Doesn't matter which of these two you have. If you drop it into either one, it will create this third one. I'm just going to pop this open to make sure that the stat is correct, but it looks like we're okay for the saving throw. And now I'm going to make sure that I go through and prepare the spell. At Ranger level 11, your character will learn the Stalker's Flurry feature that allows your character to replace a miss with a brand new attack. What this means is that once per round, if your character misses with an attack roll, you can re-roll that attack roll to see if you actually hit. But this only happens on one attack, not all of your attacks over a given round. Now, this means that this particular feature isn't something you need to add to your Actions tab, and instead, the way this is going to work is as follows. If during combat, I make an attack roll against this dragon, let's say that well, in this case, I'm going to hit. So let's say that I miss. Let's see if I can get a miss. Oh yeah, now I'm not going to get a miss. All the times that I roll, there we go. Now I've missed. In this particular case, I can tell the DM I'm going to use Stalker's Flurry to re-roll that miss. You do that again, you either are going to hit or you're going to miss. Doesn't much matter. Now, if you hit, you get to roll your damage as normal. There's no additional benefit or bonuses to it. However, if you happen to have second attack, which at level 11 you should by now, you make your second attack. In this particular case, I hit. I roll my damage as normal. And now I'm done. If, however, I had missed on that second attack, I would not have been able to use Stalker's Flurry to re-roll that particular roll. It only works on one attack per round. At Ranger level 13, your character will now gain access to the Greater Invisibility spell. And all you do is you just simply drag and drop, like I have done before, into an existing spell group that represents the Gloom Stalker spells group here, and it will automatically create your level 4 spell group. But for all other intents and purposes, this spell, outside of it being prepared, is now prepared and ready for use. At Ranger level 15, your character will gain the Shadowy Dodge feature that allows you to use a reaction to dodge any incoming attack that is not using an advantage roll and applying disadvantage on that attack roll. You must state you're doing this after the DM rolls their attack, but before the results of the attack are known in relation to a normal pen and paper encounter. When it comes to Fantasy Grounds, I recommend specifying in advance that you're going to use it when the DM states that they are going to attack your character. And as long as that attack does not already have an advantage roll associated with it, you will be able to make use of this reaction, apply disadvantage on that attack roll in an attempt to dodge the incoming attack. And the reason why I say that within Fantasy Grounds, you're going to want to set this up prior to the roll is because you'll be able to tell the DM, hey, I'm going to be using Shadowy Dodge. Please make sure you apply DIS to your attack. And what this does is this allows the DM to hide, quote unquote, hide the fact that they may or may not be rolling with advantage until the attack roll itself has actually come in. So if the attack does not have advantage on it, and you state that you're going to use Shadowy Dodge to dodge it, then the DM has to then click this DIS flag, if you will, in order for the attack to be able to make use of the disadvantage roll. In the event the attack has advantage for some reason, whether it's an effect or whether because the DM has applied this ADV flag in some way, shape, or form and they've ruled that there's an advantage roll in play, if you then specify, hey DM, I'm going to use Shadowy Dodge to actually go through and dodge the effect, they could ignore you and essentially state that your dodge had no effect. Now here's the funny part. If you as a player did not know that the DM had managed to attack you with advantage and you figured that they still missed because of your Shadowy Dodge, your character is going to think that. And because of that, you yourself have to roleplay that situation out. So let's say that you describe, or the DM asks you, how are you going to dodge this attack? And you provide a description of how you do that. Then the DM could counter that description a little bit. Instead of stating that you missed because you managed to roll to the left, you missed, or the attacker missed simply because they stumbled on a rock prior to their attack coming into you. And finally, the last adjustment you need to make to your character is when your character reaches level 17. They will be able to finally gain access to the Seeming spell here, which, once again, all you have to do is drag and drop it into place into any of these particular matching Gloom Stalker spell groups, and then prepare the actual spell for use. And as I've stated in the past, the Ranger has always been my go-to class. I don't know why, but I seem to be more partial to them than any other classes. Maybe they match my personality in some way, shape, or form. I really don't know. In this particular class, Specialization adds a few interesting aspects to the Ranger that do seem appropriate for the underworld areas or places that typically thrive in the shadows, maybe even in the Shadowfell. I'd still give this one a try, but right now I've not seen it used, nor have I played this class to have any real in-depth opinion on the subclass itself, but it definitely looks interesting. I will be keeping this in mind in the event that I need to create another character. However, this does bring us to the end of this particular video. I hope you found it useful and informative, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I wish to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it informative and useful to familiarizing yourself with Fantasy Grounds in general, and that you had fun in the process. If you found the video useful and you liked the content of the particular video, go ahead and click that like button to let me know. And if you have any questions specific to the topic covered by this particular video, or just have some comments in general, please feel free to post something in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to any questions that are asked. Additionally, I do release content quite regularly, and it's generally specific to Fantasy Grounds or 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons at this time. So if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell to ensure that notification is sent to you when I release a new video.